Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Sati, and joining me is my wonderful co-host who happens to be Ali. Assalamu alaikum Ali, how are you doing today?
Walaikum Assalam, I'm great Hajra. How are you this morning and how have you been?
Alhamdulillah. So Ali, I was reading a very interesting piece of information and I wanted your views on it. It was about how Hollywood is trying to create an in-person experiences because, as you know, cinemas are not very flourishing because of all of these OTT platforms like Netflix, like Prime Video, like Disney's Hulu and whatnot. So in London, so we have all seen the Stranger Things because it garnered 1 billion views on the Netflix. So in the London's theatre just across the West Bank, it has a West End, it has its own adaptation where of the Stranger Things, where you can see the shrieking bodies, the levitating bodies, and a very disgusting sort of a rat, because that was a very integral part of the Stranger Things adaptation. And just across the street at the Adelphi Theatre, there was another Disney's version or installment of the Frozen, which was running there. And if we move to Transatlantic in the America, you will find in a Broadway, which is a very famous theatre there, it staged its own adaptation of a Transparent, which was actually a season that was on air on the Prime Video. All of these in-person experiences, the challenge for the Hollywood is, will it able to be captivate the audiences like it used to, especially when it comes to the on-screen or the the Netflix experiences, and will it able be to evoke the emotional connection the way it used to be when we are watching the TV screen? So what do you think? Will you go to the live theatre performances where you connect with the in-person experiences, or you're more of a TV guy?
Personally, if I talk about myself and my interests, I think I'm more sort of a theatre person because, you know, you get to experience the live performances and, you know, theatre is something which polishes you a lot.
True.
So, you know,
as an actor, yeah, it does. But I mean, from the audience's point of view, if you're sitting in the audience, will you be able to have the same emotional connection?
Yeah, exactly. When we talk about this theatre, I believe that, you know, with reference to the audience who are in the theatre, so, you know, you get an instant feedback in comparison to the movies, you know.
I mean, you can also get an instant feedback. It's all over the Twitter, it's all over the social media. So social media has empowered.
But you know, that's a feedback in person. You know, you can have a feedback in person, you know, live in a theatrical
I mean, so you can have the same sort of component or alternative on the social media, because nowadays the digital netizens are not just the consumers, they are prosumers, right? They're also the producers, they're also the consumers. They are constantly creating the content there.
You know, people have become, you know, a one-man show these days.
They are constantly creating the content out there, and they're also constantly, consuming all of that content out there. They're giving their feedback, and if you see they don't like any season or any adaptation of it, you will find a very instant criticism on the social media, on any platform. So obviously we will see whether this Hollywood's method of captivating the in-person experiences will work or not, and will audiences will be able to establish the emotional connection with the characters there, with the plot lines there, with the stories there, especially when it comes to theatres, because I don't think so, nothing can beat the comfort of your home, right? Especially in the winters when you're sitting in front of the TV, you have a hot chocolate or a very favorite hot drink or beverage with you, and then you're watching any Netflix series, and that too in front
you know,
of that.
that's unbeatable, but still, you know, theatre has its own charm, and I'm a theatre guy, so I'll always prefer theatre.
Okay. So that's interesting, but obviously in the days to come, we will see that whether this experiences will revive the Hollywood's dying industry, because no one is going nowadays to cinema because of all of these OTT platforms. But obviously we see that in the coming days or in the days to come, how these adaptations are going to work and how people will respond. Obviously in Pakistan, in Islamabad, we do have theatres here, but the theatre culture is not as vibrant as it used to be back in the old days. But obviously Pakistan is not diffused, is not immune to any sort of globalization trend that is seeping into Pakistan. So we will see. But now coming to our very interesting segment of our morning show, of the first segment, which is regarding the birds, right? And the nature and the birds and this aviary culture always held a very interesting and very important place in my heart, because I'm very deeply connected to the nature, and how does the aviary culture in Pakistan unfolds, what sort of birds are there, the migratory patterns there, because in winters you see a lot of birds flocking from the Russia, from the Moscow, from the Central Asia coming to Pakistan, because the temperatures are warmer here as compared to the Central Asia or the Prussian region or the Eurasian region in particular. And it has its own charm, because when the birds fly you can see lots of patterns in the beauty of that. So without any further ado, and exploring all of these cultures, we have someone who has been a geophysicist, but not just a geophysicist, he has developed a passion, a hobby for capturing these birds and exploring the behavior of these birds. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Akbar Ali Yasif, who is a wildlife photographer, and he's been photographing and capturing these beautiful birds for more than 20 years as of now. So assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you guys for inviting me here.
Wonderful. So how has your experience been from switching to geophysicist? Are you still a geophysicist, to exploring the birds, and how did you develop this passion?
Yeah, thank you. I'm still a geophysicist,
Okay,
and
that's wonderful.
attached to my profession. But you can say I have already kept this hobby alive, and whenever I find time, normally on the weekends, so I follow this passion and go to look out for birds and take some closer photos of them. So it's been a hobby since long, as you mentioned. So it's always give me immense pleasure to have some nicer and closer photos of those birds.
Right. So when we were discussing with you, we got some very interesting insights about into the birds' behavior. So Akbar, tell us, what sort of patterns did you observe when you're capturing the birds? Do you find that there are similarities between us, the humans, and the birds, or there's something which is connecting to it, because we're all a part of the one grander scheme of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So what are some of the very interesting facts that you observe about the birds?
Yeah, obviously it varies from species to species, and in Pakistan we are having like more than 700 species, you can say, and out of which I've been able to photograph more than 400 species of birds. As you say, there are different families or groups. So simply speaking, there are flycatchers, there are red-starred birds, there are waterfowls. So they have different patterns.
So we do have your photography here with us. So can you explain us what sort of bird is this? What is this type of bird?
Yeah, this is a resident purple sunbird, and
Wonderful.
you can see it has very shimmery blue color.
Yes.
So it's very attractive, and in low light it looks like a blackbird. But obviously you can see the pattern with the change in angle of sunlight. So you can see this iridescent, or you can say shimmer of on its feather. The female is duller. It is I don't know whether you have the photograph of the female. It's again a male bird, and I photographed way back, I guess, in 2012 or 13.
So in Urdu we have that share, or the I would say a couplet of a poet, that wujude zan se hai kainat mein rang paida, right? So in birds it's different, right? And the males are more captivating,
but there are a few
more vibrant.
exceptions, obviously, in which
wonderful.
the females are colorful, but
Right.
mostly in birds we have more colors in male birds.
Right. Right. So that's very interesting. And would you like to elaborate some of your very interesting experiences that you came across, and what did you learn as a wildlife photographer? And if someone wants to emulate what you did, what sort of tips and tricks would you like to give that person?
Yeah, obviously it grows slowly, and when you are into birds, initially you have to develop those tactics, that how you can get their photos from a close by distance, and how they differ in their behavior. Just like humans, obviously you can find some individuals that are more cooperative than the others, and there are some tags. Obviously some species are more you can say shyer, and they don't they prefer to hide out in the bushes, and they won't come at once in front of you. Yeah, obviously. But there are some individuals that are more cooperative, and it's a great pleasure. You can say it gives us happiness that when they ignore your presence and they feed close to you, and give you some nice opportunities to have better photographs of them. So there are many instances. Obviously, I've come across many birds, so I cannot count them right now, but there was an owl in the Himalayas that was obviously it had no issues with my nearby presence, so it gave me ample opportunity to take some close photographs. So there are not many, but obviously sometimes when a bird behaves very friendly and in a cooperative way, so it's always fun to have some better photos of it.
And,
Right.
sorry, I'm interjecting here,
That's
but
okay.
how do you develop that bonding with the bird so as the bird does not fly away, or you're not scaring that bird away from his presence? Because if you have the opportunity to go to London, and especially in their Hyde parks, you will find that the birds are very friendly there, and there's particularly a tagline which is written on the milestone board that, you know, do not feed them, just to not disturb their habitat at all. And you will find that they are so much closer to human interaction. But in Pakistan and in the global south, in the third world countries, I mean, we are not that much close to the nature and the wildlife, and you will often find that, you know, people are just throwing the stones at the animals, and they're not given the respect that they desire as a voiceless creatures out there. So how do you develop that bond with the birds so as to not to scare them away
Yeah,
as a wildlife photographer?
Yeah, you are right. Obviously, in our society, you know, we have a huge population, and obviously, most of them, you can say, sorry to say, illiterate, and they don't know how to
Exactly.
interact with the wildlife, obviously.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned that in Europe or other countries, birds are very friendly. They are not scared of you. Even the fish, even in the oceans, when you dive or you go for snorkeling, so they are not afraid of the human
Yes,
presence.
yes.
But we can develop it here.
A more
You can say by
responsible
having
culture, yes.
by having some area that are that have better conservations and the wetlands. So it takes ages. I mean,
Right.
it takes a lot of time for birds to organize. They have amazing senses, and they have the amazing GPS systems.
Oh, yes.
True.
In a way, why use the GPS system? Because their brains are amazing.
They have an
don't follow.
inbuilt
Yeah,
GPS
they always
system.
they always follow their pathways or flyways to reach out to the certain
Strong
destination.
intuition, yes.
And even if that habitat, let's talk about a certain area with mountains, if it is even disturbed by having some construction work, they will again come back to that place. And to winter, or you spend some time here on passage, so they don't forget their places. So soon when they are disturbed fully, obviously they will choose another alternate location. So we need to be have good relations with bird, in the sense that because they can sense our behavior as well. So they are always scared when there are a lot of people around, and they
Right.
observe them.
They do catch the vibes, yeah. If you're
Yeah,
giving the off vibes, you know, they have very strong intuition.
Yeah,
so
we have seen like birds, they are not scared of the local people, like some
Yes.
women or men working out in fields.
Yes.
So they can judge their behavior as well. So they're not
Yes.
scared. Whenever a stranger
Yes.
you know, visits that place, so they're not friendly with those people, because they can read their minds, sort of. So they have like amazing skills to judge their surrounding, to have an idea of the people.
And to adapt.
Right. So, you know, before we went on air, we were also, you know, talking about the communication with birds. And, you know, since you're a bird lover and a person who had been very close to the natural habitat, so what are the, you know, communication patterns that you have observed in birds and the wildlife?
And migratory patterns too.
Yeah, and migratory birds, obviously, when they arrive at their, you can say, wintering grounds, so they display different kind of behaviors. So simply speaking, I can answer to your question is that they have certain harsh calls when they are alarmed or they are alerted by the nearby human presence or predators, you can say. And when they are in good mood, they use different kind of calls. They have different songs, and they have different patterns, although they need to be studied in detail. But in Pakistan, we have started this thing, but not in detail on, you can say, some institutional level. Or so whenever you are close to birds, you'll get to know yourself that they have different call patterns. I mean, interacting with each other and giving alarm calls. Sometimes it happens, it's a common phenomena that whenever you are in parks and you see our common birds like starlings or mynas or bulbuls, these are English words, obviously. So they have their leaders. So they just utter a call, and whole flock goes away and flies away. So they have their calls which alert them. So they have different moods and different calls. So they have their communication patterns.
Right, that's beautiful indeed. So, you know, you are a geophysicist, and we were talking as well that, you know, you have somehow found a connection between the geophysics and the natural habitats as well. So why don't you shed some light over this thing?
Yeah, when I joined this field, I'm in geophysics, so it provided me with an extra opportunity to see different landscapes, from mountains to deserts, because in our field we have to survey the land, and it comes out to be different types of lands, including some wetlands and mountains. So every habitat has its own kind. I mean, different kinds of birds. For deserts, you have certain species. For mountains, there are different birds. So it has added to my, you can say, passion, and because of my field, I have gained much knowledge regarding birds and wildlife. I mean, both animals and birds. So it was an excellent way.
Right.
It was
Right. And there's a very famous legend, especially surrounding the Eiffel Tower, because when I went to France, Paris, someone told me, I don't know, it's a legend, whether it's a fact or it's a myth, but back in the days when there was a World War I and II happening, so people used to, and especially French soldiers, what they used to do was that they used to place the parrots on the top of the Eiffel Tower. So whenever a plane was doing a sortie, especially the plane of the enemies, so the parrots was listen to their communication.
That's
and because
intriguing,
yes,
actually.
and parrots have the very interesting ability to
I mean, I
replicate
did
what
hear
they say.
about the pigeons, but
Yes.
never
No,
heard
the
about
parrot
the
also.
intriguing skills of
Yes,
parrots.
because you've often heard this term, the rattu tota, because parrots has this ability that they can replicate whatever you teach them, right? And those parrots would then come back to their owners of the soldiers, and they would, I mean, decipher what is going on, and they would act as spies, and they would
I
act
see a
as
lot of passion for birds in you, Hajra.
no, it's just what I heard about it. But now let's coming back to Akbar. So there is an agriculture in Pakistan. People by hobby or by their profession, they keep birds, they feed them, and then there is this bird flying. This is happening, you know, every now and then. So how do you see that culture evolving? And especially there are lots of myths regarding the pigeons, because my mom says that back in those days, especially in the villages, whichever house had the pigeons is now deserted. I don't know why she blames pigeons for that matter, because there's urbanization, there's globalization, these are very complex phenomena. It is not just a mistake of pigeon out there. But now again, coming back to aviculture and how it is linked to women actually keeping them and feeding them.
Yeah, yes, it's on personal level. It's a very nice hobby, and but before feeding these birds, obviously you have to have some knowledge of their feeding patterns and their feeding choices, because some birds they feed on grains and seeds, and the others are insect eaters. So you have to have some understanding of these things in order to feed them. And yes, the culture, you can say, in Europe and other countries, it's a must sort of thing to have bird feeders hung in the gardens and on the trees. So it's developing here, but obviously we have a lot of, you can say, birds that are destroying sort of the migrating bird population. Not destroying in the sense they're affecting it to a great deal. Like we have manas, we have crows, and who are not easy going with the migratory birds, and also some resident birds. So their population patterns and their breeding patterns are affected by these manas, or you can say our local birds. So because I've seen it over ages, and from time to time, whenever you visit different habitats, even the mountains and the wetlands, so crows are very bossy around their habitats.
Right.
So those wetlands or the mountains, they are not the typical habitats of crows, but they are, so you can say, clever birds that they tend to capture every place they were not used to like. So they are getting more control, and every now and then, even if you go around Rawal Lake or other wetlands, you will see a crow chasing away different migratory species like seagulls, like egrets, herons, even the smaller plovers or water birds. So it's not something that should happen on a regular basis. So there should be authority or small groups to monitor their population as well, because ultimately it affects the other birds' populations.
Right. And Akbar, since you have been photographing and capturing these birds for more than 20 years, right? And because there was a very alarming report, Ali, back in the news outlet, and it talked about how because of the climate change, there is a reverse effect on the migratory pattern of the birds.
Oh, yes,
not
we
just
were
the
talking
birds.
back then.
Yes, not just the birds on the migratory pattern, but also on their bodies and also on their mating seasons and all of these other things that are disturbed. And especially, like you mentioned, their migratory season is usually in the winters. They come from the Russia, they come from the Central Asia, and then they land in the Balochistan and in these areas. So as a person, as a wildlife photographer who has been capturing these birds, have you witnessed or experienced these changes because of the climate change in the birds' migratory pattern, their bodies, their mating seasons? What is your views about it?
Yeah, rightly said. Sometimes these migratory changes in the migratory patterns are quite evident. And like when we go out for bird photography, so sometimes in the winter we don't see that a particular kind of bird in that huge amount it used to be. So yeah, it keeps on changing and affects the bird as well. Sometimes there are flash floods, or you can say a long spell of rainfall, and so they affect. So the migrations or the migratory patterns are of two kinds. One is, you can say, limited migration or short distance migration, and other is the long distance migration. That is
What
normally,
is the difference between two?
yeah, the long distance migration, it is normally done by the birds, as you mentioned, from Central Asia and Europe. So those birds, you can say,
It's
visit
across the continents.
yeah, they across the continents, and they visit far off places in Pakistan and India, and there are flyways. So normally we have migration corridors from northwest and the western parts. So they are obviously affected by the global changes in these things and the climatic changes. But again, after a few years, these are repeated. Sometimes we have more birds, sometimes we have few birds. But obviously there are certain things that also affect these migration patterns. We have illegal poaching and hunting, so it also restricts birds from visiting the same places
like
again in greater numbers. We do have some bird population migrating to those places which we call hotspots. I mean, there are some designated places that are also registered or recorded in a particular country. But obviously there's change in those numbers, you can say, and sometimes there are no birds at all. Like I still remember a beautiful bird that is known as a crimson sunbird. As the name suggests, it is deep red in color.
Wonderful.
So we designate it as an irregular winter visitor to Islamabad. So for the last 3-4 years, I haven't seen a single bird. Maybe I was ignoring it, but it was not recorded in Islamabad.
Right. Also, you've mentioned about the bird hunting. It's a very popular activity, unfortunately, in Pakistan, about which I'm totally against. So, is it actually affecting the very rare species of the birds that we are actually talking about right now?
Yeah, it is. We don't have like exact records, but there are individual studies that record these numbers.
And should there be policing about, this activity? Because we are talking about the, natural habitat conservation, conservation of the birds as well. So what measures should be taken to, curb this thing?
Poaching,
yeah. There should be some rules and the regulations that should be same for all. I mean, hunting is allowed, but within certain limits. There shouldn't be some illegal hunting or poaching.
Exactly.
Because we see every now and then the bird markets, you can say, thriving with these migratory species or birds. Even around the wetlands, you can find ducks and other waterfowls being offered for sale. So it is not a good practice and should be controlled on local level, but also on the government levels. I mean, the concerned wildlife departments, they should act on this if we want to see these birds in future, and if we want our generations to see these beautiful birds migrating from far off places to Pakistan. And obviously they add beauty to our surroundings.
Of course.
So I mean, there are no words describing their beauty and how beautiful they make our surroundings.
And they also contribute towards our ecosystem, right? Apart from the beauty aspect, obviously the part of the nature, and this entire ecosystem, this entire web is interlinked.
As well.
Yes, they're interlinked. Yes. So before we wrap up this segment, Akbar, so you want to have this bird book, right? Tell us about your this venture. When are we seeing this book coming out? Have you started working on it? And will it be more like a picture saturated or word saturated book? What sort of the book will it be?
Actually, I want to document the things we discussed in short, actually, how the birds arrive Pakistan, I mean the migratory birds, and what are the habitats of our local resident birds, what is the impact of these climatic changes on their populations. So inshallah, I'm trying to write all these things. I have compiled a portion of it, but that's going to take some time because of my professional life. So I won't leave visiting these places for recording these birds and others. And obviously, I would like to promote the bird life of Pakistan and also give my message to conserve our habitats. Even if we can't control it, we can minimize it, we can raise our voice. So to give some certain protection to our certain habitats for the birds, I mean wetlands and mountains. Deforestation should always be,
Right.
you can say,
Right, of course, and talking about the wildlife photography, the bird photography, I mean, bird photography is something very rare to find in Pakistan, but definitely
That's
we
true.
have some aspiring individuals living in Pakistan who actually don't have guidance. So, what are the tips and suggestions that you want to give to them?
yeah, for this wildlife photography or the bird photography, there is unfortunately there is not a good career in Pakistan, but obviously for, you can say, self-satisfaction and also to preserve this precious gift from Allah Almighty, they can start birding, but first they have to develop some basic skills, learning about different habitats and learning about the bird types we have. And then obviously comes the gear if you want to have videography or the photography. So you need to know some basics about these things. So obviously it is
So, one can start from the scratch as well. I
they
mean,
can
you know,
start
we all
obviously by
have,
bird. It all starts from observation and
Right.
observing your
True.
surroundings for different birds, different animals, and slowly and steadily it becomes a passion.
and then we have
one-
smartphones in our pockets as well. So, you know,
Yeah, sure.
you can start with it definitely, even if you don't have a professional photography equipment, because we
Yeah.
know that everyone cannot afford those expensive equipment. So,
And I think
definitely-
mobile is more portable in a sense because
Exactly.
DSLR is very heavy and you can't transport it everywhere. But with that, thank you so much, Akbar, for coming to our show,
Yeah,
for
thank
having
you.
this.
It was a nice
was a
talking to
pleasure
you
having
guys.
you.
Thank you.
For
and
having
talking
this-
about the birds as well.
Yes, very interesting conversation about the aviculture, about the birds in Pakistan. And Pakistan has a very diverse land, not just the topography, but also the animal species, the bird species. And obviously, it is our responsibility because of these climatic conditions, these climatic changes, that we need not just to protect our species, but also the birds, because we are all the part of the same. We are all the part of this broader ecosystem where every individual, where every species contribute towards a very vibrant earth, right? So with that, we will take a short break, and after we come back, we have a very interesting discussion lined up, so don't go anywhere. Thank you. Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we talked about that there's a very interesting discussion lined up. So it is generally and famously said that you are what you eat, right? And there's a lot of conversation nowadays on the holistic understanding of your body, of your environment. And when we talk about the holistic understanding, you're not just consuming the food, you're also consuming the emotions, you're also consuming the environment which is around you, and that entirely impacts your body, your mind, and your soul, right? But when we particularly focus on the diet, you are what you eat, what exactly does that mean? And especially how our diet is different in winters, and that how it is different from summers, because obviously the temperature difference also affects our dietary habits, our moods, and obviously our environment in particular,
definitely.
right? So without any further ado, Ali, would you like to introduce our guest
Oh,
here?
definitely. So today we are going to have Dr. Javeria Mahmood Qureshi, who happens to be a dietitian, nutritionist, and we are going to talk about the dietary habits in the winters and the importance of diet in the winters, the superfoods. So welcome to the show.
Thank you
and
so
how
much.
are you this morning?
I'm good, and good morning to Pakistan and good morning to the beautiful people.
Thank you.
and
thank you so
I'm very,
much.
very thankful to the Jamshed and the very nice person, my friends here in PTV.
Oh, definitely.
Right,
he is.
wonderful.
So, talking about dietary habits in winters. So, what are the foods that one should take in the winter season?
Most important thing is this: don't skip breakfast. Either you're in traveling, you're a student, either you're a chairperson, whatever your job criteria is like. Many people working in media, they work outside, indoors, outdoors, and they forget time of eating,
Yes.
the portion size, the very oily meals that made us slow. So it's important to make your metabolism, for the metabolism regulation, and make yourself very active every morning or a 24/7. It's very important to
Because
balance.
winters they are very
Yeah,
sluggish.
balance like a diet and sleep for 8 hours. And sleep
Okay.
is very important.
Right, and Dr. Javeria, so walk us through a good dietary routine,
Yeah.
especially in the winters, because like we were talking before the red light of the camera went on, you said that there's a different diet in the winters and there's a different diet in the summer. So what is the difference between them, and how to have a good dietary habit?
In summers, because Pakistan is totally blessed with every season. We have winters, summers, we have
Spring,
monsoon,
autumn.
and we are totally autumn, and it's like
Spring,
this.
yeah.
But in summers, we need that diet that make our body more colder, inner.
Yes,
Mean to say that we need to
Especially in heat
detoxify.
waves. Yes.
Yeah, detoxify our body, but detoxification is important, like as such you can say for 12 months of a year. So as we are in the starting of this year, and it's like a 2024, and as like a nutritionist dietitian, I told my people that go through with the healthy things that can't make you stressed, because food on the bad time can make you stressed.
Yes.
Young generation is too much in stress these days, and I always told them, take food on time, control your portion size, don't eat too much oily and excessive oily foods,
Deep fried, yeah.
like white breads, white salt, and white rice. These are the totally miserable foods in our, and especially carbonated beverages, bakery items.
Yes.
And
They're all yummy food, just by the way. How I mean, stop from the temptation of not having
but sweetheart, whenever we replace boiled egg with the fried egg, we take calories, but a healthy calories means a lot for the person, for the healthy individual.
But Dr. Jabiri, I don't know if Ali, you've witnessed this thing or not, but whenever I am hungry, the first thing that comes into my mind is, zinger burger or something deep fried, kebabs, samosas, or pakoras. Fruit never comes into my mind. I don't know, it's with me. Yeah, I don't know whether it's with me or with other people too. But Dr. Jabiria, now let's talk about a very pertinent thing, especially when it comes to mental illnesses that is prevailing all across the world. So a lot of people, young people, they're experiencing anxiety, depression, and in that condition they start to binge eat a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, and obviously you are what you eat, right? So how to control your diet, or how to regulate your diet in such a condition when you're not feeling very great, and especially the external stimuli that you consume?
I have seen in Pakistan, people are like this, they having diet according to their moods.
Yes.
They told many times, like, we are on diet and we are balancing our diet, we are taking very nice calories, healthy calories, but sometimes on weekend they did the cheat meal, a very bad cheat meal, that's not good for health. And most of the people who have done with the angioplasties and totally replacement and other health issues like diabetes, hypertension and other problems, they need to be more careful than the other adults or healthy individuals. So as you asked me a binge eating question, so binge eating is also totally relatable, like midnight hunger cravings.
Yes.
And most of the time people got up and using social media and having very bad food at that time, chocolates and
Or
online
maybe they're
ordering
watching
and
Netflix at that moment.
yeah, and most you need to go, if you up, you need to take some healthy salad that based on the boiled eggs, little bit you can add sesame seed, olives, and you can add like green leafy vegetables. I know I'm telling very healthy things, but if you can change your lifestyle, it's a diet, it's a
good
lifestyle,
investment.
it's you.
Yes.
So it's very important.
But of course, changing your bad habits is something very difficult. I must say.
Behavioral change requires a lot of effort.
I mean, it's very difficult. So talking about the binge eating, there are people who are working in the night shifts as well.
Yeah.
So they tend to.
Do you want to name those people?
Oh, definitely.
Right.
So what are the dietary patterns that they should probably follow, and they should avoid the binge eating thing, because you're definitely mentioning very ideal things, very ideal diet pattern that one should follow, but how this should happen.
Right.
You can replace with the corns, olives, as I told you, because these are winters, and in winters you can take every morning, or even when you want to eat something, you can take some walnuts, almonds, raisins, like I can tell in Urdu as well, but we are like program
The dry fruits.
yeah. So dry fruits with the honey, you can add honey, you can add a little bit cream if you want, if you're a thin person. If you're not thin, you don't need to add. So these are the important things you can eat, like a very healthy replacement of food.
Right.
And small little changes in a diet and consistency is the key, like exercise, diet, sleep, healthy people, healthy food, and that's the life.
Right, and Dr. Javeria, I've witnessed this, I would say pattern, very emerging pattern in a lot of young people, and I would say in my home too, that a lot of people are now mindlessly eating food, right? So
That's
for
true.
example, my younger sister, she wakes up, she goes for the breakfast, but with that she's consuming some Netflix content. For example, she's watching some season or series. Do you think this mindless consumption of the food, she's not present at the moment, she's just interacting with a cinematic, I would say, screen or whatnot. So do you think this is a very healthy pattern?
No,
is there
this
any
is not healthy.
Okay.
I have seen that kids as well, that 3 years or 4 years old,
yes.
and they having, you know, tab in hand and eating
Cartoons,
food like,
yes.
you know, when you eat, matlab always it's like this, eat intelligently is an art.
Okay.
And whenever you gonna have food, stay focused and enjoy your meal and enjoy the ambience and everything.
Right.
So it's very important to consuming meal healthy without using any social media or things like watching TV and having food. No, no, no. Don't taught your generation on this thing, because
Right.
this is not healthy at all.
Right.
And second number, very important, biological diet plan are very important.
Okay.
Like the people wake up in Karachi, Islamabad, Lahore, I have seen wake up at 2 a.m. and said, I'm having breakfast.
Oh,
This
yes.
is not the breakfast time. This is like a lunch time.
Yes.
You can go with the clock, like when the sun is up, it's a
You
breakfast
need to
time.
align yourself with the nature, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So whenever you
Yes.
are against nature, nature can spoil you.
That's
Oh,
true.
definitely, you know, you cannot rebel with the nature. So, you know, talking about the importance of the vitamins, you know, when it's summers, vitamin C is very important. But, you know, in winters, Hajra, vitamin D and vitamin E, they
Citrus.
have, you know, their own importance, because they're very important in the hormone regulation and
Yes.
production as well. So, which foods are actually super rich in vitamin D and
Number
vitamin E?
one,
And
sun-
can you
yeah.
highlight its importance?
You know, vitamin D, calciferol, calcitriol, we can find natural sources in sunlight. And second one, we can find in cod liver oil and fish and all the seafood.
Right.
You can find because it's a fat soluble vitamin A, D, E and K. So vitamin A is like a tocopherol, you can find in carrots, and in winters we have so many carrots
Oh,
in
that's true.
Pakistan. And lately vitamin K in spinach, and you can find so much spinach in Pakistan. You can find the this is the fat soluble vitamins actually. And when we talk about the vitamin D, vitamin D is good for the bone health, teeth health, your skin, nails and hair. And whenever people talk about it, we are have hair loss, we are the skin problems. I told them to try to take the vitamin C for immunity and vitamin D for the bones, and you know, vitamin D absorption with the calcium. And
Yes,
calcium
it
is like
actually
you
boosts
can
the absorption of
yeah.
calcium. That's true.
Because it's not like you are just taking supplement or you're just taking a fish piece that our
Yes, also I
consumption
really
is
wanted
it's
to
not
ask
like
this one particular thing, that
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
these days, Hajra, there are these vitamin D capsules, vitamin
yes.
D injections as
Yes,
well.
yes.
So, you
But
know,
synthetic medicine I never recommend, because I believe in the food, because food is like a satisfaction.
And
That's
it
true.
has not
That's
just a
true.
vitamin D, it has other components also,
Yeah.
right? So a tablet may have just vitamin D, but a food or organic fruit or whatever, because in Pakistan we are blessed with the organic fruit, and I
Yeah.
think we take that for granted a lot, because in the West there's this concept of genetically modified food, and we see the effects of that, especially in their population. Now, Dr. Javeria, let's talk about, because since you're a dietitian, you're a nutritionist, about the highly sensitive people. And do you believe that their diet should be different from the normal ones, because they do not have a very high tolerance level for the caffeine intake in particular?
You know, caffeine helps a lot for that individuals that are too fatty, like 130, 120 kgs, because every morning people are used to have caffeine, or those people who are working energetically brainy, all the, you know, decision makers, the chairpersons, chairmans, they need to take some, you know, caffeine for the actively work at the workplace. But things are like this, those who are not tolerated, like you can say glucose intolerance, lactose intolerant people, or caffeine intolerant people, they have food, actually they have the food allergies, and we accepted this, but this built from the first 20 years of the age.
Right.
Because the person, like a child of the children of this, you can say era, they make out all the peas, carrots from the plate, and I always used to suggest people that try to make them
Well, parenting
settle
has
them,
its own importance in
so
that
the
particular
person
situation.
skip meals like this, not taking everything, have a problem laterally,
Yeah.
and you can't overcome the calcium or vitamin D or vitamin C level overnight in your body. You can't maintain
And
it.
of course, Hajra has, asked a brilliant question that, about the dietary patterns for the sensitive people who are actually prone to certain, disorders. So there is this order, which is which is psoriasis, an autoimmune disease, in which, and it actually happens in winters. It aggravates in winters, in which you get eczema as well, you get constipation as well.
Yeah.
So what should be the diet plan for people who are actually experiencing psoriasis and those who have gastric issues?
Number one, the people with the gastric issues or gastroenteritis or something, they need to, first of all, they need to quit the spices, oily food, and then the highly alkaline or highly acidic food. Acidic food included the grapefruits and oranges as well, and lemons as well. But this is specific for the people who have the gastric ulcers or something like this, or have a, they don't have a good digestion or problem, and they can go through with the things, milk and dairy products. And totally, there is totally, you can say what to take and what to avoid, and you will be okay. Secondly, you asked the question of psoriasis, and this is a sub term of the skin problem, or you can say something. Very, very interesting and very good question, because I have seen a lot of people who have this problem and they go to the skin doctors, but actually the problem in the skin. First of all, we need our skin detoxify and clear, because everything happening in our blood.
Yes.
High blood sugar levels, low blood sugar levels, hyperglycemia, hypoglycemia, and hypertension. So you need to cleanse your blood with the mint water. Number one, detox waters may you can add like tomato. You can add the red fruits or vegetables in the water, and you can take whole day. Then you can add the yellow water, like you can add cucumbers, grapefruits.
Thank you so much for enlightening us, Dr. Javeria. Unfortunately, we are really short on time because of this paucity. We have to say goodbye to you. But before we wrap up this segment and bid you farewell, there is a very important and unfortunate and a sad news that Aslam Kamal, who happens to be Allama Iqbal's painter, has passed away yesterday. He has contributed vibrantly to the Pakistan's arts and cultural scenario. He had 9 books on the arts and culture, and apart from that, he was also known as the painter who painted the intellectual cosmos of Pakistan, and he was known as the pioneer of creative calligraphy in Pakistan. Inna lillahi wa inna ilahi rajiun. May his soul rest in peace, and may his family get all of the sabr that is required after passing away of this soul. And with that, we will pay you and bid you farewell until next time. So goodbye and Allah Hafiz and good morning.